Hello again, welcome to WOW Training. My name is Eagle Eye, and today we're going to be looking into the hunter, and I say this with air quotes, rotation for a marksman hunter. Anyway, the first thing to understand is that the term rotation is in air quotes for a very good reason, because Blizzard does not want you to be using just an A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, repeating pattern of shots or abilities in any class. So for this reason, they have inserted things that are called procs or various other mechanics to make you have to actually think your way through the problem in real time as things go on. Otherwise, it would just be boring, and people would macro things like a cast sequence doing A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, repeating ad infinitum. So what this means is you have to actually think about what your priorities are. What are my priorities when casting my spells? Now, of course, as a damage dealer, your number one priority is doing as much damage to the target as possible, of course, while staying alive. If you are able to stay out of fire and keep yourself alive, you need to know what to hit and when. What abilities to use and when in order to maximize your DPS. Now, one of the most important things is keeping long cooldowns on cooldown. If you have something that is a 1 minute cooldown and you let it come off of cooldown for 30 seconds every time it comes off of cooldown, well, that's 50% DPS loss from that ability. So like, for example, your Murder of Crows has a 1 minute cooldown. If you don't hit it for 30 seconds after it comes off a cooldown, well, that's 30 seconds it could have been up. And if you do that a second time, well, now you've only cast it twice when you could have cast it 3 times. So it's very important to keep those long cooldown abilities on cooldown and use them as soon as they're available again. Same thing goes for even the short cooldowns like Chimera Shot, which has a 9-second cooldown, and it's a lot easier to lose your DPS with that by even just waiting 1 or 2 seconds after it comes off of cooldown. So for that reason, it's very important that you keep your focus high enough so that you can cast it as soon as it comes off of cooldown by making sure that you steady shot when you notice that Chimera is almost off of cooldown. And you just keep an eye on it. You don't want to, like, for example, do an aimed shot that brings you to, like, 5 focus just as your Chimera Shot is coming off of cooldown. You might want a steady shot instead to bring your focus up, to, let's say, set 55. By the time you're done with the steady shot, it'll bring it up to 80. You'll have 80 focus, but you'll be able to do that Chimera Shot immediately and then do an aim shot. So there's all these things to think about and interesting decisions to make. And as Sid Meier, the creator of the Civilization series, said, all games are a series of interesting decisions. And so that's what you're faced with as a player of WoW, is you're making interesting decisions in the moment based on the data available. So my goal here is to help you make those interesting decisions in the moment and maximize your damage and your performance in a raid. So let's get to it. The first and most important thing to understand is that kill shot is your number one priority anytime it's off of cooldown. And when it's available, which is under 35% by the time you hit 100 with enhanced kill shot. If you don't have it yet and you're like 95, just wait another level, you'll probably get it. You get an enhanced ability every 2 levels in Warlords of Draenor, so there's like 4 of them or 5 of them to get. So chances are, if you don't have it by the time you're 98, you're going to get it at 100. I'm not entirely sure exactly how that works, but at 100 you will have a kill shot available at 35 and below. Everyone does. It is your number one priority because it is a huge hit. Mine says it does 64k physical damage, almost 65, and that's pre-crit. So if it crits, it does a whole hell of a lot more. But most of the fight, you're going to be in this 35 to 100% range. Of course, that's 65% of the fight. So what do you do otherwise? Well, let's take a quick look at something here. We're on the Dungeoneer's Training Dummy. It's a level 102, right? So that's like a heroic boss. So we're going to hit a Murder of Crows, but we're going to, we're going to clear our clear recount, and we're going to watch the DPS go as we hit Murder of Crows. We're going to see exactly how much damage a Murder of Crows does for a single button press. As you can see, over the course of the 15 seconds, it hits 22 times now, 23, 24, 24 times, and it hit for 113,000 damage. That's all for a single press of a button. Yes, the DPS may only be, 20k, or 15k, or even 10k, because you have to divide that 113,000 between that 15 seconds. However, it only took one button press. So looking at DPS is not important. What you're looking at is damage per cooldown. Damage per global cooldown, because you only have so many global cooldowns you can press in a fight. So while this Murder of Crows is going on, you're also doing damage with other things, but you have to get that Murder of Crows on the target as soon as possible, and as often as, so you can get it on there as often as possible. Murder of Crows is by far your #1 damage dealer, aside from Killshot. Now, Killshot doesn't even do as much damage. It doesn't do half. It can crit for that much. You can crit for over 100k with your Killshot, but a Murder of Crows is a nice steady DPS as well. And let's face it, at the end of a fight, the Killshot may kill it before the Murder of Crows is fully realized. So that's what makes Killshot the most important thing at the end of the fight. So, but normally, in the normal part of the fight, your Killshot, or your Murder of Crows is your absolute #1 priority to get on the target. So, here we have the Murder of Crows is #1, but then we have to figure out what #2 is. And believe it or not, it is not aim shot, even when you're above 80%, you have almost 100% chance to crit because of careful aim talent, or the careful aim passive ability that grants you 60% bonus crit. On that note, just as an aside, if you look at the careful aim tooltip, okay, so 60% bonus for aim shot, but it's worth noting that raid bosses have a 3% crit suppression. So in order to get a 100% chance to crit, you have to get to 43% crit. And right now, like, if I were to use my crit buff, raid buffed, I would be 35.49. And so it's very important to understand that I actually need 7.51% more crit in order to be 100% critable at 80% or greater with aim shot. So aside, all that aside, that's just an aside here. Even so, Chimera Shot does more damage per cooldown or per second than aim shot, even with the crits. Because aim shot, is it's showing here on my tooltip 35.6. But because of my haste, I have 2.29 second cast time. So you have to divide that 35k, and then multiplied up by your crit by the 2.29 in order to find out what your actual DPS is for those aim shots. So as you can see, I'm doing like 40, 50, 51. Oh, that was some multi-strikes there. You see those multi-strikes? 43k crit, 44k crit. Now look at Chimera Shot. Chimera Shot does 40.3 or 40.4 base, but it has a 35% chance to crit. So if you were to multiply that out, you have, there's 39 with a normal shot. And that's only a 1 second cooldown. So it's 39k per DPS with a Chimera Shot versus what amounts to about 22 to 25k DPS for the aimed shot. So if you have to just think about it in terms of how much is it going to cost me on a global cooldown, or how much is it going to, if it's a dot, think about it in terms of damage per global cooldown. But if it's a channeled long time cast, like an aim shot is, you have to divide the total damage done by the cast time in order to find your DPS. And what it works out to be is that Chimera Shot is actually your number one, or your number one shot behind Murder of Crows. It's better than Aim Shot. The same thing is true for Glaive Toss versus Barrage. And you know, I cover why we actually use Glaive Toss instead of Barrage in the video about talents for Marksman Hunter. As it stands right now, it does about 16 to 17k to the primary target. In fact, let's just take a look. 12k with a crit, and a multi-strike. It does just about the same damage as Barrage, but you don't have to channel it. So it's a single global cooldown rather than a channeled 2.5 second cast time. And so you don't have to worry about making that awkward decision about, do I keep channeling my Barrage or do I use my Chimera Shot that just came off a cooldown? You can hit that Glaive Toss and then, and then hit that Chimera Shot right after it. And you waste less time waiting for your cooldowns to expire, and you can fit more Chimera Shots into your rotation or into your combat. So there's that. So basically, the entire rotation when you start off, let me just start from scratch here. Is I start off with Murder of Crows, Chimera Shot, Glaive Toss, Aim Shot. Your mileage may vary, but that's what I do. And of course, it's good to get your Dire Beast out there. Again, you want to get your Dire Beast out there as often as possible. So whenever it's off of cooldown, you want to get it out there so that you're maximizing your focus regen as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So if I were to start over, I'd probably do a Murder of Crows, Chimera Shot instant, and then don't even bother with the Glaive Toss until I get my Dire Beast out there to start that 30-second cooldown rolling. So there you have it. That's your rotation. You focus dump with Aim Shot when you get above maybe 70, and you want to make sure you're aim shotting when you have rapid fire going. And when you're above 80%, you want to you can actually dump your focus all the way down to 0, unless your Chimera Shot is about to come off of cooldown. Then you want to make sure you have enough focus for a Chimera Shot by the time it comes off a cooldown. So here we go. 6, 4, 2, Dire Beast, Aim Shot, and another Aim Shot. Oh, not yet. Then an Aim Shot, and there's a Chimera Shot. I just lost some DPS there because I did my Aim Shot first instead of just doing another steady and then getting my Chimera Shot out. So this is one of those kinds of things you got to practice, but understanding that Kill Shot, then Murder of Crows, then Chimera Shot, then Glaive Toss, then Aim Shot. That's your priority list. You have to make sure that you have your focus management right, and you will maximize your DPS. So I hope that helps, and have a good night.